people by making appointments and things like that. So I think those sort of things, and I suppose it's really important to consider as well, like, there's more than one way to get to your end goal, I suppose. So, don't think that if you don't get the points for, one of the colleges, that you may not get into a very similar course in another college, that will actually get you to where you would like to go in the end. I suppose that's one of the things when you're going to colleges, when you're making your choices, this is only one step in all of the transitions that you will be making going forward. It's very much a journey. I suppose I didn't speak about anything in particular there about particular courses because, I wanted to keep it more general. I think it's more beneficial to people generally. But get as much information as you can in advance. Because I definitely think that will help people make the best decisions for themselves. I do think, finding out about how something is assessed, what sort of, will you have a lot of group work? Will you have to be in every day of the week? What were the lectures spread out? Is it that you're in 2 or 3 days a week and they're very full on days, or in 5 days a week and you might have only 2 lectures some days, and there could be 5 hours between those. I think those sort of things can be really important to find out in advance so that you can make decisions as to if that is going to work best for you. And then I suppose if you're leaving home, are you able to manage, and how will you, we the students, when we start off, it's very difficult, but I do think it can be additionally challenging for somebody with a disability. I think that's about me done. I think I spoke for about 10 minutes there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Patricia. Really good point to kind of follow your passions. There's no reason to study something you're not interested in, really. So
exactly.
Wonderful points, Patricia. Thank you so much. I think we'll move right along to Áine. Are you there, Áine?
Morning, everybody. I'm here. Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity this afternoon to talk through, give you a bit of an overview of apprenticeship as an option, as a career choice, I suppose. So I'm going to run through a bit and give you a bit of information about what essentially is an apprenticeship, and how you can go about securing an apprenticeship. So first question, I suppose, what is an apprenticeship? Well, an apprenticeship is a program of structured education and training which formally combines and alternates learning in the workplace with your employer while learning in an education or training centre. And the overall general aim of an apprenticeship is to provide apprentices with the required knowledge, skills and competence to work autonomously in their selected craft or be it occupation after the course of an apprenticeship. So when you finish your apprenticeship program, you have a specific occupation. So that could be, for an example, as a plumber or an accountancy technician or a cybersecurity analyst. So there are a huge variety of apprenticeship programs out there at the moment. Currently, there are 77 programs, which I know a lot of people aren't aware that it's such a high number. And there's 20 in the moment that are at development stage. So they're just kind of securing curriculum and funding and before they're launched. So a couple more coming down the line as well. So we have the traditional craft apprenticeship programs that a lot of people, when they hear apprenticeships, that they think about. So we think apprentice, we think carpentry, joinery, plumbing, electrician, etc. But like I say, since 2016, we've had a huge number, over 50, that have entered the apprenticeship program system. And they range from such diverse careers as farming to accountancy technician, a lot in the IT section, insurance, recruitment, and lots more areas that people just generally aren't fully aware of yet. So in the National Apprenticeship Office, we're really trying to promote apprenticeship as, an opportunity to secure a lot of career professions that you may not necessarily traditionally think are associated with an apprenticeship program. But I'll just talk you through a bit of the traditional key features of the traditional craft apprenticeship program. And like that, there are 25 of the craft apprenticeship programs. And as I said, they're the programs that you'd generally associate straight away with apprenticeships, like your electrician, your plumber. So they're a very structured program. They're a 4-year program, and there's 7 training phases throughout that program. So they alternate between on the job and off the job training. So you'll do 7 phases. Your first, you're on the job with your employer for 3 months, and then you move into you're off the job in a training facility, and that would be for generally about 22 weeks. And then you move into phase 3, back to your employer for 6 months, and then ideally back in phase 4 with the training for 10 to 11 weeks, and then you're back with your employer for phase 5, 6 months, and then 6 weeks back back in your training provider, and then your final phase then you're with your employer for the last few months before you get your national certificate then. So there's a rolling intake with those apprenticeship programs. So once you secure your employer, you can be registered as an apprentice throughout the year at any stage, and the off the job and on the job training kind of takes place throughout the year. There's no set, it's not like a September or a January intake. So when you're with your employer, so when you're doing your on the job training of the apprenticeship program, your employer pays you for that, which is essentially the key feature of an apprenticeship. While you're getting your qualifications, you are getting paid. And then when you're in the training provider, the state is paying you for that part of it. So you're getting continuous wages into you while you're securing your qualifications. And at the end of that 4-year program, you have a level 6 advanced craft certificate. So the 25 apprenticeship programs, and then since 2016, we've developed a huge range of other apprenticeship programs. And key features of those apprenticeship programs are that they're industry-led by consortia, so a group of people within industry and education partners who've come together and developed the apprenticeship program. And again, it's always, all these apprenticeship programs have a key occupational profile at the end. So everything that you're learning towards will give you an occupation, so be it an accountancy technician, cybersecurity analyst, they're all leading to an occupation, so that you come away and you can say, I am such a thing. So generally, the new apprenticeship programs, or we call them the consortia-led apprenticeship programs, they range from between 2 and 4 years in duration. There's a minimum of 50% on the job learning. So you have to be with your employer for half of the apprenticeship program, and that's key to the apprenticeship, and just that hands-on learning in the employment sector or section with your employer. There's tends to be a lot of flexible delivery depending program, and again, so many programs out there that I can't go through them all, but they some of the programs, like the recruitment executive, for example, they do 4 days in the workplace, and then they do 1 day in college. So that could be, I think it's online once or twice throughout the year, and then, or sorry, in person a couple of times throughout the year, and then online for a lot of the learning. So, or alternatively, some of the IT programs, you're block released, so you're a few months in college and then you're back in your workplace for a few months in total. So again, it's just that idea of, it could be online or in college, or a blending of both options. They're dependent on the program that you're learning. Apprentices on this they're employed under a formal contract of apprenticeships, and the employer pays the apprentice for the duration of the apprenticeship program. So it's not the way it is with the craft programs, where it's the state that's paying them when they're doing their off the job training, and it's the employer that's paying you during your whole time apprentice. And awards for the consortia-led apprenticeship programs, the new programs, they range from levels 5 and they go up to level 10 in the national framework of qualifications. Again, apprentice earnings, it's something that's decided between you and your employer how much you're going to get paid. You are paid for the whole duration of the apprenticeship, even if, like I say, you're on the job or you're in your training centre. And there's industry employment regulations that guide employers on what they should be setting as apprentice wages. Again, for further information, you can just go to our website at www.apprenticeship.ie. I suppose, what qualifications do you need to become an apprentice? Again, it's dependent. For the traditional craft, 25 apprenticeship programs, there is the requirements are minimum age, you have to be 16 years of age and over. The education, you have to have at least 5 grade Ds in your junior cert, or if you complete an approved pre-apprenticeship course. If you don't have the junior cert, you can gain entry to one craft apprenticeship programs. And then for the newer programs, it really does depend on each of the individual programs. Generally, there's a minimum criteria of bypasses at leaving cert, and usually it does have to include maths. But again, further details can be found on the website. So just to kind of go through a bit why choose an apprenticeship. So I suppose key to choosing an apprenticeship, first and foremost, is that it's an earn and learn opportunity. So you're earning while you're getting your qualifications, and you're on a career as opposed to a course. So straight away, you know if you're in the right area, because what you're learning in the classroom, you're putting to practice when you're in the employer with your employer. So it's not like you're coming out, of a couple of years of learning and then going, actually, I'm not really crazy about this career. You're straight away in the workplace, so you're getting straight, experiences as to know if it's for you. You're also developing skills and knowledge relevant to that workplace. You're improving your employability. You have experience, which is key these days to the employers. They just want to have people with experience, and you've plenty of progression opportunities to build on your career going forward. Then, and again, it's that key industry recognized qualifications. It's people within industry who are coming up, who are developing these apprenticeship programs, which is key to the program. So I suppose, what program do you choose and how do you find the information out about this? So again, it's on the www.apprenticeship.ie website. Each apprenticeship program is linked to a brochure. It goes through great detail of the program, the curriculum, what's expected, the skills that you need to fulfill the program, and what occupation you're coming out with at the end. But like I say, all the details are there. There's also relevant contact details there. So for a lot of the newer apprenticeship programs, they will link it back, and there'll be someone to contact. You can give them a call about, again, a bit like Patricia was saying, find out about as much information about the course before you go down the route. And key to that is finding those brochures, finding out who you need to talk to, and tips again for how to secure an employer. Because again, apprenticeship is unlike other education programs. It's employer driven. You need to find the employer to take you on, and then you can fulfill the learning requirements then. So again, have a really, really in-depth read of all the different programs. And again, something that you may not have considered as an apprenticeship, or think, gosh, that actually could be something that I hadn't necessarily thought of. So again, the biggest kind of challenge, I suppose, for people securing an apprenticeship and for you guys would be how you find an employer. So recommend the search engines. We have a jobs portal on our website, on the Generation Apprenticeship website. We also have a linked employer database on the website. So we have employers' details. So within your area, within your industry, find those employers, see who's taking on hiring somebody. If it's an accountancy technician, find people within, find employers within that section. Essentially, kind of, you're doing a bit of cold calling with them, though, knocking on doors, saying, can you take them on, give you experience, and again, contacting industry leads, and that's all driven by each apprenticeship program in the brochures. Some apprenticeship programs, the new apprenticeship programs, let's say, for example, accountancy technician, they have an expression of interest for applicants. So you can go in and register an expression of interest, and they sort of have for some of the programs, they might match candidates to employers. Another area of finding employment, I suppose, would really inquiry and research in your local community, talking to people who are already working in the industry, and that knocking on doors, looking for work experience, following us on apprenticeship, us at apprenticeship through Facebook or Instagram and LinkedIn. You can find information, apprenticeship roadshows, and specific to your area or the industry that you want to go down. Also, really key also to apprenticeship is your local education and training board, talking to somebody within there and looking for a bit of advice, particularly around the finding employment piece. So I'm just going to summarize. I suppose there's really essentially three steps to finding an apprenticeship. You choose the apprenticeship program you're interested in, so that's getting as much information as you possibly can from the program, and then securing an employer. Okay, so that you're going to secure an employer who's going to take you on, so you can fulfill your apprenticeship with them. And then step 3, I suppose, is you're learning on the job with an employer, and you're doing your off the job training in a training facility where you're going to get that world class education. I suppose regarding disabilities and resources in apprenticeship, because it's employment driven, you need to find the employer. So you need to find an employer who's willing to take you on and provide those necessary reasonable accommodations. The National Apprenticeship Office, we've recently created documents with a head, with a tip sheet for employers on being disability inclusive in apprenticeships. So it's to encourage more employers to employ apprentices with disabilities, and it's also to advising them how to improve the apprenticeship employment experience for apprentices with a disability that are currently in employment. And this is due to be published by the end of the year, and I suppose it's one of our aims to increase diversity in the workplace and to build upon our bank of employers who are in a position to take on people with disabilities. Also, on your registration, everybody, when you become an apprentice, you're officially registered on our apprentice database, and at that point you provide details of your disability, and then reasonable accommodations are provided in the training or education provider. But again, all our details are on the website, apprenticeship.ie.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. No, it's wonderful information and such great opportunities for kind of hands-on experience, which is kind of often overlooked. So thank you so much. And I think you've left kind of clear places for people to look to if they're interested. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, Áine. Perfect. Moving right along to our last speaker. We are going to join everyone back in the main room at the end, so no need to run off. But before that, Orla, are you there?
I am, Erica. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, Orla. Good to see you again
here this afternoon.
Looks like a nice sunny day, although I think that's probably just a background.
It could be just the backdrop. Unfortunately, we're waiting for the sun to come out like Dublin too, but hopefully as the weekend progresses, we'll be in luck. But listen, I'll go on as I realize our time is limited here this morning. So just to say a huge thanks for having me to speak to you about some of the programs that are on offer to young people around the country through the Inclusive National Higher Education Forum. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar with the INHEF, or Inclusive National Higher Education Forum, we are a group, a special interest group, which have been working in the higher education sector for many years now to put in place opportunities and programs aimed specifically at including young people with intellectual disability in higher education. And you can find out a lot of information about the programs if you go onto our website, which is given there. And I'll put also in the chat in a moment, if anyone would like further information, they can contact us. It's important to note, I suppose, that too, which we are not. So while we represent and bring together many HEIs around the country who provide these opportunities in various different levels of engagement for young people with an intellectual disability, we are not any kind of a central applications forum. So when you go onto our website, we can direct you to programs in your local area should you or a family member be interested in finding more. We don't accept applications directly, but we do work at quite a strategic level to try and drive very positive developments in the sector. One of which recently has been the launch of the Path 4 Phase 2 funding initiative, which has endeavoured to ring fence very significant funding to include young people with intellectual disability in higher education. So within our respective institutions, we work very closely with all of the departments, from access to the various different schools, to try and create really meaningful and engaging opportunities for young people that come onto our programs. And when we look around the country, we have numerous providers, and I won't go into the list because I'm bound to forget somebody, but there are providers all around the country who are offering these types of programs. And there's a great range and variety, and every higher educational institute has kind of made their own of their offering. So we see a great variety of different modules and certificates that are available, ranging from levels 3 to 6, with different modules and learning pathways. But one of the points of commonality that we see looking at HEIs involved in this type of provision is that we are really eager to create pathways for these young people, not only into higher education, but we are eager then to enable them to transition beyond this. So there's a huge emphasis at the moment in looking at opportunities for employment for young people with intellectual disability. And we work with a lot of corporate and community partners across the sector to try and identify opportunities for young people after the duration of their study. And as I say, depending on the college or university you're looking at, and there are 11 newly funded projects, I'm delighted to say, all across the country. So for the first time, we have public funding ring-fenced for this very, very significant and important work. And it's great to see in the sector, and I suppose the broader kind of political climate at the moment as well, a great eagerness to include young people with intellectual disability who may have not had the same opportunities historically as other learners. So we're delighted to be doing this wonderful work, and we have seen, I suppose, the great successes that we have had by including young people with intellectual disabilities. And I think it is really, really important that we continue to create opportunities in our colleges, in our workplaces, and societally to ensure that young people with intellectual disability, and all of our young people, can be all that they can be. So we at INHEF are centrally dedicated to working with and learning from these young people, their families, and our sectoral stakeholders as we have lots to learn. We know that, and we're moving forward. And I think every year we're doing this, we're learning more, and hopefully getting a bit better at creating these opportunities, getting our courses accredited, working nationally to try and, I suppose, promote additional opportunities and to open up our colleges and our universities to become truly inclusive college environments. And I suppose another thing that we're seeing great examples of is kind of cross-sectoral partnership. In Limerick, for instance, we have a wonderful partnership with the Limerick and Clare Education and Training Board, who are our accreditation partners. So they have accredited our newly funded MIC Abilities Pathways project. And I hope my colleagues in INHEF will forgive me for giving a shout out to my own institution, because I do want to emphasize that there are examples of excellent practice all around the country happening in our colleges and our institutions, from our colleagues at Trinity College to UCC to Galway to MTU to ATU. So the landscape is changing, and so too we hope are the opportunities for the landscape of higher education to become more inclusive. So I suppose that's kind of a whistle-stop tour, Erica. I hope it wasn't too brief. I suppose I'm just aware that I'm constrained in the sense that all of the HEIs are quite different in terms of their offering. So I'm intentionally, I suppose, speaking in broad strokes in the hopes that it will begin a conversation that will go on beyond today's forum. And I'll put our contact details into the chat, and we would absolutely love to hear from any of our colleagues or anyone who might be interested in or have any questions in relation to what is happening in this sector with regard to opportunities for young people with intellectual disability in the Irish context.
Yeah, thank you so much, Orla. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful information. And the screen should be up with a QR code for anyone that wants more information. We do have a couple.
Sorry to interrupt, Erica. My apologies to cut across you. But just to say, I mentioned that funding has recently come on stream, so there's a lot of kind of upgrading going on at the moment, and there's a lot of newly initiated projects starting up. So when you do go onto our website, please just do bear with us, because we're updating it currently to reflect those national developments. And so over the course of the coming weeks and months, we hope to have a full suite of the offerings there, and the requisite contact people within the respective HEIs as well, should anyone like further information. But as I say, please do feel free to contact us for any general queries at the moment, and hopefully we can steer you in the right direction. Thank you, Erica.
Yeah, thank you so much, Orla. We do just have a couple minutes left in case anyone has any questions for any of our three speakers in this session. Feel free to put them in the chat. If you have anything to say, I see Maeve is happy with the session. She says she feels inspired, but she does have to run. But thank you so much for joining us today, Maeve. Any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. If there's nothing coming, I think we are just going to have a wrap-up session back with everyone in the group. So thank you so much to our three wonderful speakers this morning, kind of giving so many different options, but very clear pathways as well. So it's very kind of clear messaging from all three of you. Thank you so much for your help, and thank you for joining us today. You're welcome to come back to the main session with us if you'd like. You should have just gotten a pop-up that allows you to leave the breakout room and rejoin the main session. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back in the main session just for kind of some final goodbyes.
Thanks, Erica.
Thanks, Patricia.